April, Ajoy, and we found a little conference room, a place to have a conversation as we attend the Nashville Nuns, like not nuns, Catholic nuns, but nuns as in no religion. Nashville Nuns Conference, NanoCon 2025, and I had to talk to her because she's on the speaking roster and we're on a panel together in April. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
You are not an atheist, you are a Christian. Is that right?
Correct, yeah. I'm in the lion's den right now.
What are you doing here? You're not a nun? What are you doing here?
I'm trying to win souls. I'm just kidding.
Come out, lifeless devil.
That's my plan the whole time.
Yeah.
No, we're here to talk about Christian nationalism because I feel like right now, as sad as it is, no offense, I have more in common with you than I do a lot of MAGA Christian nationalists right now. And I feel like shared values can go a long way to help stop the Christian nationalism that is taking over our country.
No, I feel the same way. A lot of my fellow, the anti-theists, struggle with that. Why would you partner, why would you stand shoulder to shoulder with a religious person, religious organizations, etc.? They're part of the problem. If you are a Christian, then in a way you're giving cover to the Christian nationalist. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I hear that argument and I understand where we're coming from. And also, one, I am a Christian, and I feel like a lot of us can't help but believe what we believe. If I said I wasn't a believer, I wouldn't be true to myself. And also, on the more practical standpoint, we live in a country where Christianity is kind of in the blood. Christian nationalism, white supremacy, evangelicalism, it's all tied in together. And we're not gonna fight that and be able to stop that without also using Christianity, in my opinion, because I don't know if you've ever talked to, I'm sure you have, you've talked to theists and more fundamentalist Christian. You can't use logic, you can't use facts, and you can't use someone who is going by brain and thought. You can't use those tactics. You have to use the Bible. And I feel like the best way to stop it is to use their own book against them, which is also my book, because there are multiple ways to interpret the scripture that are not fundamentalist and literal.
All right, I'm going to be that guy in the comments section. If you're a Christian and you can't reach a Christian with logic, then we can't reach you. No?
You can't reach me?
I mean, I'm just saying, if they said, well, you're not going to reach Christians or you're not going to reach Christian nationalists by using facts. Did I hear that right?
Correct. We don't care about facts.
All right.
We as in, fundamentalist Christian.
So tell me about your Christianity. How do you interpret it?
I hold my beliefs very loosely. I believe in Jesus. I have prayer life, a spiritual life, but I'm not trying to tell you that you're wrong and I'm right. I have a very big tent approach to faith and Jesus and Christianity as the language that I have because it's the culture I grew up in, it's the faith that I was raised in, and that's just the language that I use. But I am not exclusive in believing that my way is the only true path to God or truth or the universe, and I think every belief system is valid.
I heard you say earlier that you are a red letter Christian. Mm-hmm. What do you mean?
I follow the teachings of Jesus. And I do think the red letters, which are, there's Bibles that the words of Jesus are written in red. And if you just take that, it is the kryptonite to a lot of Christian nationalism teaching and rhetoric that we see today.
You and I are talking about Christian nationalism on a panel later, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. And I'm not going after you, I'm just curious. I think you and I are engaging each other in good faith, and I'm fair game, so come after me as well. But, when Adam was created, he was given dominion over the earth. We see the Old Testament is filled with tribal wars as God's chosen people were, taking ground and imposing God's law. The Great Commission is go ye into all the world and make disciples. So dominionism seems to be baked into literal biblical Christianity. Do I have that wrong, or do you see it differently?
No, I think if you're taking the Bible as literal, as the literal word of God, then yes, I think you would come away with that. But even doing that, there's conflicting worldviews within the text. There's conflicting scripture within the text, which is why I don't believe that anybody actually takes the Bible literally. It would be impossible.
Well, I guess, who was it who said that follow every command in the Christian Bible starting in Genesis, the last one to go to jail wins, right? Because you're talking about owning slaves and executing disobedient kids and all that, right?
Yeah, no, and I'm fully of the belief that you can interpret the Bible to oppress people, as we've seen throughout history, and you can also use the Bible to bring liberation and to bring freedom. And I think you can choose which one you want to do. And because everybody cherry picks. Some of us just admit it.
So the least of these.
Yeah.
And blessed are the meek, and be charitable and kind, and don't take vengeance, and tell the truth. And the best version of Jesus is something that speaks to you.
Yes. Yeah. I find the teachings of Jesus very noble and something that I aspire to be like, and just being a good human being and treating other human beings as human beings and not being dehumanizing.
But what about the Jesus in Matthew that said, I have not come to bring peace but a sword. I've come to turn a father against his son, a mother against their daughter. You know, Jesus wasn't always love and light. Do you have those discussions with yourself about, the nature, the three-dimensional nature of Christ?
I mean, yeah, I've definitely thought through a lot of that stuff. I just hold a lot of those scriptures loosely. I don't believe that everything is literal, and when it was, the Gospels were written so much later too than when Jesus passed.
So it's an imperfect text written by man, but you can sort of filter through to find the diamonds. I don't know if that's an oversimplification, but to find the good stuff.
Yeah, I think for me, the Bible to me is more the story of God. It's not the literal word of God that a lot of evangelicals believe. To me, there can be a lot of good meaning that comes from it. There can be some bad meaning that comes from it, depending on how you interpret it and the lens in which you interpret the scripture. I honestly just don't care that much about
So the God who said gays deserve execution and all that stuff, this is a construct of man. It is not the God that speaks to you, the Jesus that lives in your heart. Your personal relationship, God would never do that.
Well, yeah, but I would also push back that I don't believe the text says in the interpretation that you just said. Like, I feel like a lot of
man shall not lie with another man. It is
right, but there was no
abomination.
orientation in that. And then Ezekiel comes back and says this was the sin of your sister Sodom, that they were overfed, or that they ignored the poor and were inhospitable. So I think a lot of the conversations that I would have with a lot of atheists, and like a lot of arguments that atheists have about the scripture, first of all, I agree with. Like, I think those are accurate if you're talking to someone who interprets it in that fundamentalist, literalist way, but I don't interpret it that way. And universalism, I would say, is probably what I'm more likely ascribe to, like Christian universalism with the universal Christ, where God can meet anybody where they're at, regardless of their belief system, and we all have different languages for who God is. And so I think I just interpret it differently. So a lot of arguments that you or a lot of atheists or agnostics would have, I agree with them, and also don't interpret it that way. And it doesn't really have a deep impact on my personal spirituality.
If Jesus was sitting in your chair, though, I would ask Jesus, why the ambiguity? Why don't you just come down and explain it to us? Why would we need to interpret? Why are there thousands of splinterings of the religion? The whole world is looking up going, please give us some clarity. I would be like, Jesus, fix this, explain it. And you can understand that, right? The frustration maybe that you have had, where you're like, I'm not sure what this means, I struggle with it. We all have struggles. You'd be like, Jesus, you're God, come down here and freaking explain it in a way that we can all understand with no ambiguity. That's fair, isn't it?
No, I completely agree with that. And I think people that say, well, the Bible is clear, That's just, the Bible's not clear at all. If it were clear, there wouldn't be over 45,000 Christian denominations in the world.
You and I are allies. We are teammates. Blows people's minds. I can hear heads exploding. YouTube especially, they're going to come after me and say, what are you doing? And I just literally want to sit them down and say, April is my hero. She and I share values. She is on the front lines against Christian nationalism, which I've come to the point in my own life, April, where if you hold a personal belief, we can have those discussions, right? You and I disagree on theology, but we share values, right? And our humanity is the most important part of that conversation. You'd agree with that, right?
Absolutely. And to me, I think beliefs are secondary. I think what you believe doesn't really matter. It's an intangible.
But doesn't what you believe impact how you act? Doesn't one propel itself into action? I mean, what I believe affects what I do and say.
Yes, but I think so many people, including me at one point, but we can get so hung up on, well, what does this verse say? And how do you apply that? And what about this belief? And what do you believe about creation or the beginning of the world or afterlife and all these things? And I really think it's beautiful that we can have an exchange of beliefs, but at the end of the day, none of us know what's going to happen when we die. We all believe. We believe nothing's going to happen, or we believe we're going to heaven, but none of us know. And I think that's why it's like an intangible, because we can have beliefs, but I care far more how people live, what people do, our actions. And to me, if you have a belief that I think is weird and ridiculous, but you are out there fighting for queer inclusion in the world, I'm like, great. I don't care that you believe in whatever it is.
I think my afterlife, I'd like to be reincarnated as a dog in my own house, because they live the best lives ever. I would just want to be pampered and spoiled in that way. Total digression. I don't know. Are you an animal person, April?
It's funny. We actually have a cat that showed up on our porch this past Christmas, and my spouse, Beecher, has always been allergic to cats. So we were like, no, can't have this cat. But it was really a Christmas miracle, because Beecher's not allergic to this cat, and now the cat has claimed us as her family.
Like the dander has been miracled not to be able to go into the nose and affect the allergies, the sinuses.
Right, that's why I'm a Christian. I'm just kidding.
Tell me about your book. What's it called? What does it do?
Yeah, it's called Star Spangled Jesus, Leaving Christian Nationalism and Finding a True Faith. But I've had a lot of atheists that read it. It's not preachy, I promise.
No. As a setup, I've read the book, and I appreciate the book. So you were hardcore at one point. You were a Bible literalist. The country belongs to Jesus. I don't know, where did you feel? One vibe I get with Christian nationalism now is, I don't care what the rest of the world does. Mm-hmm. I only care about us. And they talk about these borders, these subjectively drawn. They were drawn by men, right? But for some reason, these borders are sacrosanct. So if I'm born on this side of the line, somehow I'm better than someone born on the other side of the line. Was there any of that was part of your journey, or no?
Yeah, I was very Republican. So why can't they come in and take? I remember
Jesus was a right-wing capitalist kind of thing then.
Oh yeah, it's wild being on this side looking back, because the cognitive dissonance is so very obvious. But yeah, I believed in Jesus, was a huge Jesus person. It's not a religion, it's a relationship.
It's not a religion.
Right. So really, I still am a religious nun in that definition.
That's a whole other that's a whole other interview, and I'm not taking that bait. So you used to be a Christian nationalist. Please continue. Go ahead.
So, we believed love God, love people, although exclusions definitely applied, and then vote Republican. So we believed that true Christians had to vote Republican, that Republicans had Christianity best in mind, and that was mainly based on gay marriage and abortion at the time. And we were also very pro-gun and pro-death penalty, oddly enough, because we were also pro-life.
Oh, we were the same way.
Yeah.
Right? It was kind of an Old Testament justice, eye for an eye. You kill somebody, we'll kill you back.
Yeah, Exactly. When I was in grad school, I campaigned for Mitt Romney. Unofficially, he didn't ask me to. But I was very fired up because I watched that Dinesh D'Souza Obama 2016 doc, and it was like, the end of the world, socialism is coming. And I really thought that immigrants were going to steal the job that I didn't have yet because I was still in college. So I was like all riled up and really thought that like the end of the world was coming if Obama won again.
Like abortion equals murder. That's what. So I think a lot of people who they've joined the MAGA movement or they're on the train, even if they're in the caboose, they're able to, or they are willing to rationalize every other horrible thing because as long as we're not murdering babies, whatever the Democrats do is worse.
Yep.
Was that the vibe? Like whatever the Republican does, even if it's horrible, it's not as bad as murdering kids, so I'm going to vote Republican. Yes?
Yes. It's also based on, I was only ever taught a right-wing view of abortion. So I was only taught a very sensationalized story, women carrying full-term babies and choosing in the 9th month to abort their healthy baby willy-nilly.
And the liberal doctor twirling their mustache going, ah.
Exactly. Yeah. People were just thought that people were having abortions for fun, for funsies. And graphic. I went to a hell house when I was 12.
Explain what a hell house is for people.
A hell house is a haunted house, but it's put on by churches. So instead of like zombies and ghosts or Michael Myers, it's literal biblical demons and like deadly sins. And then you have teens that get dragged to hell. Very traumatizing, actually. But the very first room in the hell house that I went to was an abortion room. And you had a girl, she was probably 15 or 16, laying in a hospital bed, just so much blood.
Blood right between her legs?
In between her legs. It was like squirting. I think they had some kind of like sprinkler system back there. And you hear the doctor, and he's like, "We're having trouble with the abortion," and it's like, all these sirens go off. And like, "We're gonna lose her," and then they pull out. It looked like it was like a full-size baby doll.
They did a fetus?
Yes, but it was not a fetus. It looked like. It was a baby doll, but it was like the size of like an actual 6-month, 9-month baby that was coming out of her. And so then she dies and the baby dies. And then it like lights go off and you hear brrrr because they're dead. And then you see the like demons in the background. They're like, hey, another one that we convinced my body, my choice was about women's rights. And then they drag her to hell and she's screaming. And
I think a lot of those came out of the same template. They would have like the gang shooting. There was the suicide room. Did you guys have that where like someone's in there and you can see their suicide on a TV and their bodies laying on the bed? And it was a scared straight thing, right? They would terrify you. Did yours have like evangelical salvation counselors at the back door when you were done? Oh
yeah, there's like prayer all throughout it. And then you're also constantly reminded that this could be real. This will be real unless you repent. And then they give you lots of chances to do so.
It's really abusive, isn't it? That's a worthy God would not terrify children into, acquiescence, obedience, blind obedience. It's essentially love me or else, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't believe in that God.
I know that. You and I'm vibing. You look around today, April, I must have been so naive. Like 10 years ago, I thought, well, the rise of the nones or the seculars, the humanists, the non-fundies, okay? I saw this statistically and I thought, well, we're not going back. We're not this, we're white supremacy, they're fringe and all these types of things. And then of course, the world's on fire.
Yeah.
Did you go through any of that? Did you think, hey, things are getting better, and then you looked around like you just witnessed a huge train wreck? Come on.
Yeah, I feel like, I thought the world was kind of starting to end when Obama was president.
When did you come out of your fundamentalism?
Well, it was in stages. I think when you start deconstructing, you don't know you are. You kind of just start questioning things that don't make sense quietly because you're talking about it's taboo. So, I would say I started questioning different theological things, like more about my Pentecostal background when my dad passed away in 2011, because we were Pentecostal, so we believed in miracles and that if you had enough faith that God would give you what you asked for. So he was diagnosed in May, passed away in September. I knew I could not have had more faith, and God just didn't do anything. So I was like, well, that's wrong. But couldn't really express that out loud yet because Christians around.
Sure, they would have literally circled you and said, danger.
Oh yeah, well, and we were even told, well, God just didn't heal him. It wasn't because of God. God, that still works, that's still true. It was because you had some unresolved sin in your family. Found ways to blame us, like we did something wrong in the process.
There's a get out of jail free card, like there's no scenario. We've talked about this, I know you've gone through it, but like if he'd been healed, it was Jesus. If he had an extended life, it would have been Jesus. If he dies, God took him to a better place, or your prayer was answered and it was just answered in a different way, or it's our fault because it's a fallen world. There's no scenario where it's where the prayer wasn't answered. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's very fair. And honestly, I went very introspective for a long time, and it was the first time I was ever angry with God. You're not allowed to be angry with God. You're really not allowed to be angry, especially if you're a woman in that world. But it took me a couple years to realize I'm pissed that God didn't answer my prayer. And I was pissed at a lot of Christians that I knew too, because they wanted me to hurry up and be happy again, because a sad Christian is a bad witness. And there was a lot of toxic positivity of like, well, why would you be sad? Your dad's in heaven.
Where's your joy in the Lord,
yeah,
April?
Exactly. And so that I started just realizing this is not okay. Like I'm having a very normal human reaction to losing my dad, who I was very close to and love still very much.
And I'm guessing he was relatively young then?
He died when he was 57.
Okay.
It was kind of sudden. We found out he has stage 4 non-smoker's lung cancer and then died 4 months later. So, my world shattered. And so much, my dad was a very godlike figure for me too. Like he was a preacher. I feel like I learned a lot of my beliefs and theology through him. And so losing him in a way felt like losing a connection to God. And so I was left to figure out my own thoughts and beliefs on my own for the first time. And then slowly over the next several years, it switched to more political things. Because I do think when you're in that world, and I would have never said I was a Christian nationalist. I thought I was just being a good Christian. And I think that's true for most people who espouse nationalism today. They think they're just being good Christians because it's what their pastor, their loved ones, Fox News, talk radio, it's what they're all telling them. This is what it means to be a Christian. And most people have a very shallow understanding of their faith too. But I started, and your political ideology, that's what I was gonna say. Your political ideology and your theological beliefs are intertwined. Like they're so connected, you don't know where one begins and the other ends. So me questioning Pentecostal beliefs left the political side vulnerable as well, because they were both connected. And so 2015, one of my brothers comes out to me as gay. And I'm sure you can imagine what I had been taught about gay people. He told me bawling that he'd known since middle school and had begged God countless nights, crying to make him straight, and God never did. I was taught that gay people had a demon, were either possessed by demons or oppressed by demons, which means, a demon was just influencing them to choose to be gay. But I didn't believe that anyone could be born gay, because that meant God made them that way. And then what does that say about God? And at least my understanding of him. So when he came out, I immediately knew, well, I know he didn't choose this. There's no way he would choose this in the same homophobic world I grew up in.
Yeah, why would he step in front of the bullet, right? Why would he put himself in the crosshairs of society in that way? It was already there.
Yeah. And so, and even he though, because I mean, indoctrination goes really deep. So even him knowing that he was gay, didn't choose that, knowing that he in his essence was a gay person, still at first was like, but I know it's wrong. And so I'm just going to be celibate. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I believe God made you this way. And that was kind of like the first step towards realizing, what? There's like an affirming theology, and there's entire different ways to interpret scripture that has always existed. And I had never been taught that there's room to include queer people. And so that also put me on another few-year journey to become fully affirming. But then also probably the biggest thing that made me realize at least the more Republican beliefs were pretty screwy, was when Donald Trump came onto the scene, because I had been taught that character mattered in a president, because I was a child during the whole Bill Clinton scandal.
Oh, yeah.
And it was drilled that if Bill Clinton would lie to his wife, how much worse would he do to the American people? And we need a man of integrity in the White House who wouldn't cheat on his wife and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's why Republicans are good, because we care about that. And Democrats are bad because they don't care about that. And it was solidified then. Republicans good, moral, Democrats bad, not moral. And so then Trump comes on the scene. And suddenly it's like, well, we're electing a president, not a pastor. And I'm like, well, we've never said that before.
It's like the King Cyrus argument. The Lord sometimes uses flawed people to carry out his will, and you and I are throwing up in our mouths.
Oh, I know. And I'm like, well, why couldn't he do that with Hillary? And they're like, nah. Then just freak out.
The fact that it was a sexual sin with Clinton, too. And I'm not a Bill Clinton fan. I always thought he was kind of a sleaze
screw that guy. Yeah.
The guy's walking around the Oval Office going, hey, I'd like to give her a State of the Union. That's just how he thinks, right? But, and I think this speaks to the binary nature of how many people think, including people who are liberals and whatnot, tribal people. We tend to be all or nothing. Like if we say anything about how Bill Clinton he was not a good guy in that way.
Yeah.
They think we're selling out and giving cover to Donald Trump. And it's like, or I'm making an equivalence argument. And I just don't think the world works like that.
No.
It's not equivalent. We have never seen anything like what we are seeing. You would agree with that, right?
Oh, like in our world currently?
The nature of the presidency, the bar has been lowered so much that he can go and tweet that Joe Biden died years ago and was replaced by a robot.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not even news. Right? We just have become so scar-tissued that it doesn't matter what AI golden idol image he posts. It doesn't matter. He's got AI of Obama on his knees being cuffed and being taken off for treason. And we don't even blink anymore. It's crazy, April. It's crazy.
This is the stupidest timeline. I mean, it's annoying and dangerous and harming a lot of people. And also it's so stupid. How did we even get here? I don't.
Is your faith in humanity, do you struggle with that?
Yes, yeah, I do. It's really frustrating, especially to see the people that I grew up not idolizing, because that's bad, but just really admiring.
No, you looked up to them,
yeah.
You respected them.
Like Franklin Graham. I used to think Franklin Graham was this awesome, amazing man of God who had integrity, and he was out here campaigning for a rapist.
Yeah.
And the way that MAGA Christian nationalists recently went after Chip and Joanna Gaines for just having a gay couple on their TV show, and yet have been completely silent at the inhumane treatment of immigrants that we're seeing across this nation. And we have a glorified concentration camp happening in Florida right now, and they're, instead of talking about that, they're talking about how it's toxic to be empathetic. It's so infuriating, because even if I understand that there are scriptures that make Jesus not look the best, but there's also a lot of scriptures where he's saying, to treat everyone with kindness and to love your neighbor and to love your enemy and to turn the other cheek. And what you do to the least of these, you do to me. And I was a stranger and you did not welcome me. There's plenty of verses in there that if you're actually a Christian and you're trying to follow the teachings of Jesus, MAGA and Christian nationalism is an anti-Christ belief system. And it's infuriating for me to see them out there waving the Bible and acting like they have the only true Christianity, which is so stupid because there's so many different ways to be Christian. And they have the audacity to look at me and call me a heretic and a blasphemer, and that I'm somehow evil and demonic and satanic because I'm saying, hey, I think we should just care about people. Is like 12-year-old me would just die if she saw the state of the world right now.
As you and I are speaking, I don't know if the people who are watching can see, but there's a little bird that has flown over your head, and part of me wonders if that's a sign from heaven that she is now speaking wisdom unto the ages, or it's just a bird landing on a deal, but I thought it was kind of charming. I have been struck by, and I get it, how evangelicals have leaned so heavily into the QAnon thing. I mean, everything is a conspiracy. And it's the wackier it is for many, the more legit it is. I mean, there are students using cat litter boxes in schools. There are people who are going to homeroom and coming home and they're a different gender. And maybe the teacher did it. And they're, trafficking children out of the basement of a Washington, D.C. pizza parlor for the deep state and Jewish space lasers. And you and I are looking around going, how did this happen? Do you think fundamentalism, and I don't mean just Christianity, it can be Islam, it can be any kind of fundamentalism, do you think that primes people to accept conspiracy theories because much of what they've done in the beginning was conspiracy-based?
Absolutely. I think, especially if you believe in the rapture of the church, which, if for those that don't know, it's this belief that Jesus is going to come, not all the way to earth, just to the sky, do a little trumpet, and then...
I like that move. I hope he does that when he arrives. Yeah.
And then all of the Christians on earth will get sucked up into the sky. We just kind of float. We leave our clothes behind though, so we're naked, float into the sky.
Please, no.
That's according to Left Behind core, the lore of Left Behind, if you're into that.
Left Behind was actually a popular book. Was it Peretti? I'm trying to think of who wrote Left.
Tim LaHaye.
Tim LaHaye.
Mm-hmm. Frank Peretti also wrote a bunch of other.
He wrote The Oath and a bunch of these Christian fiction, but not quite fiction, biblical books that were kind of adventures with godly characters. Would that be a fair way to represent that? I totally derailed you. I'm sorry.
No.
You and I are literally firing off each other like the pistons in an engine because we walk so many of the same steps. But because so much of the end times narrative is a conspiracy, the devil is under every rock and everything is a sign and the moon will turn red as blood and this headline over in the Middle East means that this is happening. There will be wars and rumors of wars. People are primed to just totally fall for stuff. Right? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you're taught that nothing is really what it seems, that everything is either of God or of Satan. There's really no in between. Even your own flesh. You can't trust your basic instincts because your flesh is sinful by nature, which means Satan owns your flesh and you have to die to yourself every single day. And when you're taught to not trust your own instincts over and over and over and over and over again, even if you have little alarm bells that go off, you're like, does this make sense? You're immediately like, well, that's from Satan. And like, it doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense because this pastor is saying it. And if you believe that there is a literal Satan and has just a bunch of little demon minions running around with the sole intention of getting you to look at porn or, whatever the sin is, then the next logical step is like, okay, yeah, sure, maybe there are a bunch of demonic lizard people behind the scenes getting Democrats to drink children's blood, and and you believe in literal Satanists, which I'm sure there are. like I know like the Satanic Church doesn't actually believe in Satan. I'm sure there are some people
There
that
are
actually
some Satanists. Yeah, Satanism's like any other faith,
Right.
or non-faith. Yeah, I get it.
Right, but like I was taught that like actual literal Satanists
Yeah, on
that
Halloween they were trolling around, kidnapping your black cat.
or children, or like putting drugs and candy and passing them out like as some big conspiracy. Like it's so easy to believe if you just believe that there's evil behind every corner and it's out to get you and it's out to get your family and your schools and your churches.
So were you a fearful kid when you were raised in Fundy Pentecostal, a family that believed in that way?
Yeah. I mean, it's really weird because I had a really good childhood. Like my parents were really good people that were also just in that world too. So I had a very safe place at home for the most part. But you definitely have anxiety all the time. I mean, I said the sinner's prayer all of the time.
Like the big bad world, first of all, is out there.
Yeah.
And you literally had to refresh because I would do that too.
Yeah.
Pentecostals can lose their faith, right?
So, yes, but it takes a while. Like we were not Baptists that believe in eternal security, once saved, always saved. So we thought that was stupid. But we also thought...
Well, of course, the Baptists believed in eternal security, and the Baptists are totally off base, right? If you're a Pentecostal.
Right, we were better.
But the Pentecostals thought if you go south, if you're bad enough, you will then not go to heaven anymore. Your salvation is nullified.
Yes. It was very conflicting, though, because we were taught that you would kind of have to intentionally make that decision to no longer follow Jesus, to lose your salvation. But if you had just committed a sin, like, I don't know, ate an extra cookie when your mom said you could only have one, you had two, and you didn't ask God for forgiveness, and then the rapture happened, or you were to get hit by a bus and die the next day, or whenever, that you could go to hell. Just in case. They're like, you know what, just in case, you should just always ask God to forgive you. So they would tell you, like, don't stress about it, but, maybe just in case you don't want to burn alive forever.
I was 13 and I would just whisper it under my breath. I didn't even realize how often I was doing it. Lord, please forgive me for my sins and cleanse my heart and please save me. And I felt like I was always having to reset the meter, which is really a prison. It's tragic that kids are indoctrinated in this way. It speaks to self-worth, fear of the outside world. I don't know, there's so many layers to that onion, April. But I hear like the story of your brother. My best friend came out to me as gay in the 90s, and I had no idea. I was totally ambushed. And I'm like, we didn't speak for a year. He's going to hell. God's going to judge him. He's going to get AIDS. This was right on top of, right after the AIDS decade of the 80s, when it exploded. And then, of course, I finally came to my senses. And once I'd humanized him, I had many of the same conversations that you did. It's amazing what happens when someone in your relatively inner circle who was the other all of a sudden becomes a three-dimensional flesh and blood, beloved person.
Yeah.
It kind of kicks the door open, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there were several moments in this journey, and my brother coming out was one, where my heart disagreed with my head. My head was telling me, well, this is wrong, and this is a sin, because we were taught all these things. But my heart was saying, this is your brother. Who cares what the book says? And there was some conflict there for a while, arguing with those two things. But yeah, I think that's one reason why empathy is being so demonized right now from the right, because empathy is a dogma killer and nuance is a dogma killer. And once you can see someone's humanity or the divine in them, as I would say, like if you're close enough to see that they're human just like you are, it's so much harder to demonize them.
Empathy is a dogma killer. I'm making that into a t-shirt. It's just true, right? Once you've dehumanized, what is that line I'd like to quote? It was from a psychologist whose name escapes me because I haven't had my second cup of coffee, but he said, dehumanization is a tool that lets us harm other people, right? Once you remove their humanity, then you can lock them in a cage in a concentration camp, and you can send them to a torture prison in El Salvador, and you can starve them, and you can put them in the electric chair, etc. So today, you and I are fighting against autocracy, theocracy, monarchy. Are we hosed? I mean, should we just all go lie down in the forest and call it a day? Should we move to some other part of the world and just watch the decline of Western civilization? You've had those conversations internally. All right, I can't be the only one, April.
Oh no, I mean, literally, Beecher and I just got our passports renewed and got our kids' passports. We have no plans to travel, but just in case.
Yeah.
I mean, we have no plans. I don't know what we would do, but I'd feel a little bit better just having it, because it is really scary what is happening. I don't want to discount that, but I don't think it's hopeless. I feel like there's still a lot of really good in humanity. And I think the fact that you and I are sitting here having this conversation and that we're partners in fighting this is a really good sign that people with different beliefs and different backgrounds or different understandings of the world can come together for a greater good. And that gives me hope. And I know a lot of people ask me, why are you still Christian? Because I know the things that I say don't always sound Christian because of what we are used to having, what we're used to understanding about Christianity in America, especially. But this is going to be triggering,
Go ahead.
not sound Christianese.
Fair game, go ahead.
I feel like I have a calling now to witness to Christian nationalists and try to pull them out. And I really think they won't listen to me if I say I'm agnostic, or if I come out and say I'm atheist, or if I come out and say I'm not Christian anymore. Then their walls go up because they've been taught atheists are bad, agnostics are bad, all the things.
Sure, I mean, the witness has already been discredited.
Right. But if I say, hey, listen, I'm a Jesus person too, and I know where you're coming from, I believed everything that you believe, and I know that you really want to follow Jesus, and that you really want to love people, and that you really care about people. And this verse right here, how can you reconcile this with ripping children away from their families just because they're not born here, when Jesus said to welcome the stranger, what you do to least of these you do to me? And appealing to people's goodness, I have found actually can work. And I think I have a better position to do that while staying Christian than if I just leave the faith altogether.
We've talked a lot about changing minds, and I hold to, in the one-on-ones, people will not change, they won't become reflective and potentially change their minds if they feel unsafe, right? Mm-hmm. If we're on the attack, I used to think if you walk in with data points, I have the evidence, I win, right? And it never worked like that. Because many of the people were back on their heels, fight, flight, or freeze kicks in, and people improve their opinions when they feel safe. And I don't think it's a cheat to make someone feel like it's okay. I'm not going to attack you. I don't think you're, whatever invective I come up with. I want the best ideas to win. I'm listening. I mean, I will say that people in my own tribe, we're human beings. We're not always very good listeners. We're sending but not receiving. Having empathy is not a cheat. Back me up on this, April. Empathy is not a cheat.
No, I think I believe personally that humans are more good than evil. That we all have, but we're all capable of both, right? And I think at our very basic nature, we have kindness and we want to do good. That's my understanding of the world. That's what I believe. When I look at my kids and I see a desire in them to do good, and we're not teaching them dogma. We're not teaching them, you better do all these right things, you're going to die and go to hell.
Sure, it's your journey.
Right.
Here's where I am, but you are on a journey of your own.
Right, and I see two little human beings that just want to do good in this world and are very empathetic and care about people. And I think appealing to that is good. And I think that's where we're going to get people, is to appeal to people's empathy. I don't know, I think there's more good people in the world than there are bad people, but the bad people are just in power right now and they're really loud and scary.
And I think the bad people, honestly, because they shatter the rules and they act without values, I think in many ways the fact that they're more conniving, mm-hmm. has allowed them to secure the halls of power. I mean, when we talk about, not to monopolize your time, but I could sit here all day. I'm almost done, April, I promise.
You're fine.
What is happening now in Christian nationalism in MAGAville with all of the horrors, the moment-by-moment horrors that are happening? Almost all of that is in contradiction to the will of the American people as a whole. All the polls say that people hate this shit. I mean, there are a few that love it, but when it comes to reproductive rights and gay marriage and trans people in the military and blah, 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 if you look at the way Americans feel, they're looking around going, I don't agree with this. Yet it's the people who lied and cheated to get into the halls of power, to stack the courts, to overtake, to essentially monopolize the Congress, etc. You know, I think it's their lack of ethic that has allowed them to secure the halls of power. And they don't represent most people. I don't know. That's kind of where I land. It's imperfect, April. Yeah. Does that hit at all?
No, I think that's true. I think most people, honestly, I think most people don't know how bad it is. I think most people stay in their own little bubble, avoid bad news.
I mean, is it head in the sand, or is it disinformation bubble like Hannity and
I think it could be a combination of all the things. Like, I think you have Christian nationalists that are openly Christian nationalists that want to make America a Christian nation. They're open, loud, and proud about it. Then you have people who will vote with Christian nationalists, maybe don't fully understand what's going on, but know abortion and Democrats are bad, and so they vote for that in that way. I think most people, and I've ran into a few people lately, just when they ask me what I do, and I mention I'm a political activist, and they're like, oh, well, I couldn't watch the news. I don't watch the news. It stresses me out too much, and I have to, it gives me too much anxiety, and I just don't want to know. Like, literally didn't know anything that was going on. I think most people fall into that, and I think that's why we got Donald Trump round 2, because Donald Trump was saying all of the things that he was going to do, and then people are acting shocked when he's doing those things. I mean, it was right there. Project 2025 was right there.
But some of that's got to be about savior figures. I think when you're part of a fundamentalist culture, don't you respond to someone who comes in and says, I alone can fix it, I am the chosen one? I mean, if you were taught to follow an authority with a capital A, be it a deity, a pastor, a shepherd, then if somebody comes along and they're waving the Bible, it's belief theater, and they say, I alone can fix it, follow me and I will make us great, then all thinking can shut down and they can just say, that's my guy, and then it's just literally the sheeple. I mean, that's what I see.
Well, yeah, and I think too, when you're in that world, you're taught don't touch God's anointed. You're taught that about pastors and evangelists and anyone who's in a position of power. If they mess up, you don't talk bad about them because they're God's anointed. I think that was easily transferred to Donald Trump.
You might as well be criticizing God himself, for he is God's proxy on earth.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
The king in heaven appoints kings on earth, that kind of thinking.
Mm-hmm. I think the most honest thing Trump ever said was that he could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and he wouldn't lose any followers.
Yeah. April, one last plug for your book before I let you go. April and I are on a panel in an hour, 2.5 hours, talking about Christian nationalism. We're going to provide an example of two people who have a few disagreements here and there, and we are absolutely allies and on the same. I feel like about you the way I feel about Amanda Tyler at Christians Against Christian Nationalism, and Andrew Whitehead, and Dr. Robert Jones. I mean, believers, Rachel Lazar at Americans United. I mean, heroes in the fight against state church overreach and this attack on the Constitution. And what you do is critical, and it's important, and it's amazing. And so I'm honored to take the stage with you. I think we're gonna do pretty good. I hope so.
Yeah, I'm excited to be up there with you too.
All right, name of the book and where do people find your work?
It's called Star Spangled Jesus. You can get that wherever books are sold. There's also an audiobook that I narrate. You can find me on the interweb at April Ajoy, A-J-O-Y, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Threads, Blue Sky, X. There's way too many.
I will put links in the description
Wherever.
box. in the show notes of this conversation. April, you're amazing. Thanks for talking to me.
Thanks for having me.